Welcome to Worthington Home, a channel dedicated to loving and living with antiques. Now that the holiday season is upon us, it seemed like a good time to talk about vintage Christmas ornaments. Years ago, when I was in my 20s, my grandmother gave me several boxes of her old glass ornaments. She hadn't used them in decades, and as was her way, she had carefully stored them up in the attic just in case somebody might want them someday. She knew that I loved old things and would likely appreciate them, and she was absolutely right. At the time, I had just gotten my own apartment. I had very few decorations of my own, and so this was really a treasure trove for me. It only recently occurred to me to try to do some research on my little ornament inheritance. And fortunately, I had a few clues to guide me. And one of them was the name Kobe on the ornament box, one of the ornament boxes. The other, and I'm not sure you'll be able to see this, but you can trust me that it's there, was the very top part of the ornament, the metal part that was stamped Shiny Bright and Made in the USA. In addition, my grandmother had told me that she had the ornaments. She couldn't remember exactly, but she thought she had bought them sometime in the late 1940s, early 1950s. So, armed with this information, I began my search. I discovered that I had a vintage Mercury glass Christmas ornament collection. Or did I? We'll find out. We'll come back to that in just a minute. But for those of you who don't know about Mercury glass, it's really beautiful. It's sometimes called poor man's silver. And it's the only glass form that was made for purely artistic reasons. It was never meant to be a practical substance. It was just meant for decoration. And it was produced in the 1840s, first in Bohemia, which is now the Czech Republic. A few years later, England followed suit, and then the US by the 1850s. And originally it was just used for tableware, but again, not functional pieces like plates and glasses and forks and knives. It was really decorative pieces like vases and candlesticks. By the 1930s, it was being used to make Christmas ornaments, and they became very popular in the United States. By then, they really weren't using mercury anymore. Mercury is an unstable element and not really suitable to that purpose. So instead, they really rely on the silver nitrate. And then a gentleman named Max Eckhart recognized that World War II is approaching. He was deeply invested in Christmas ornaments, importing them at that time mostly from Germany. And of course, we were about to be at war with Germany. So he had the idea to create his own factory with his own production. He called it the Shiny Bright Factory. And he worked in partnership with Coring, the glass makers. And they basically used glass bulbs, which he coated in silver nitrate internally and then lacquered. And they were really, really beautiful, and they were very popular. During World War II, silver nitrate was considered to be a non-essential metal, which was a no-no in wartime America. And so Max Eckhart could no longer use silver nitrate, and he couldn't use the little metal toppers that you find in the tops of the ornaments. He had to be innovative. And so what he did was he created just plain glass bulbs with some painting on the outside. And instead of the metal toppers, he used cardboard. And those are very collectible today. Very desirable, very collectible. I just saw a small box of those ornaments on Etsy for $300. After the war, silver nitrate was used again to make these ornaments, and they became more popular than ever. Max Eckhart included additional designs and shapes. The Kobe factory was established, and they started making them, and they remained very popular right until the 1950s, when plastic ornaments became all the rage. And so people like my grandmother, I suppose at that point or sometime thereafter, relegated their ornaments to the attic for people like me to find later on. And you can find them. You can find them quite easily. You can find them at tag sales, estate sales, antique stores, maybe your grandparents' attic. You never know. You can find them on Etsy and eBay and all of the normal places that you would think of to look for something old. These ornaments, like the ones that I showed you, are not very valuable. Mine were made in the 1940s and 50s, and I can tell that because of the stamping on the top. And as I showed you before, it said Shiny Bright or Kobe, made in the USA, and I know those are late 40s, early 50s, certainly made after the war. The more valuable vintage silvered ornaments usually include things that depict figures, birds, animals, ornaments that are in excellent condition, not as beat up as my poor ornaments are, but of course mine are also used and loved, so maybe that's okay. And as I mentioned before, those World War II era ornaments are quite popular. But if you can't find them or don't want to spend money on older ornaments, and I have to say, they are incredibly fragile. They break if you look at them. I've broken a few, and it's so disappointing when that happens. They don't even really smash like glass does. They just sort of fall apart. And it's very dismaying when that happens. So if you'd rather get new ones, I love old things, but if you'd rather get new ones, you can find some really great ones. Pottery Barn makes some really nice ones. You can find them on Amazon really easily. I personally think the nicest ones are made by a designer called Christopher Radko. He's got some gorgeous ones. They really capture the vintage charm, but with some updated flair. And of course, they're not so breakable. So if you invest in them, you don't have to worry that they're going to fall apart on you. In the past, I've dedicated a full-size Christmas tree to my vintage silvered ornaments. They look so beautiful. It's a very nostalgic look. They have nice, soft, reflective light, and they give the room this beautiful vintage flair. But this year, I won't be doing that because of my two new Maine Coon kittens, who would most certainly destroy those ornaments without even meaning to, and I thought it would probably be best to avoid ornament tragedies. I wanted to take just a moment to introduce you to Thing 1 and Thing 2. Just kidding. This is Indy, and this is Iris. They're squirming and ready to destroy my house. If you liked this video, I hope that you'll click the like button and subscribe. And I also want to invite you to follow me on worthingtonhome.org, which is my website, and I get into a little bit more detailed information about these beautiful ornaments. Until next time.